we have a very exciting panel. We have three amazing guests here. We have Jamie Burke, we have Luke Mulks, and we have Amy Peck. And I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves to the audience. So Jamie, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jamie Burke, CEO and founder of Outlier Ventures. We are an accelerator for the metaverse. This year, we will hit our 100th portfolio company after near 8 years in the kind of crypto space. And in the next 12 months, we're going to double that to 100 startups. So hence why I need this kind of lighting, because I've no idea how we're actually going to do that. But, you know, that's what we do.
That's awesome. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Luke Mulks. I'm a VP of Business Operations at Brave and Basic Attention Token. We're about 36 million monthly active users and are been growing the business lines that include privacy and blockchain. I'm
a huge Brave user, so
thank you.
I can vouch for it, and that's because my other half is way into privacy. It's true. Brave is awesome for that. Amy, introduce yourselves from Tbilisi.
Yes, I'm currently in Tbilisi in the country of Georgia, and my company is WebXR. I come at this space from a very different angle through XR. And we actually focus on strategy and consulting for large enterprises, but I've always kept an eye on blockchain and crypto, as well as AI, and because I really believe that sort of the future of, and again, to use the overused word, metaverse is sort of the confluence of all of these technologies. And I am also a very big fan of Outlier Ventures because they came in early. They came in hot and they get it. So
yeah, amazing.
Oh, you're so generous. And by the way, we're an investor in Brave, so we naturally love Brave.
Appreciate it.
Love fest. Love fest. I love this. I love this. I am really, really grateful to have all of you here, frankly. And we are going to have a very open and very free-flowing discussion. And I'm sure there will be some questions for the panelists. So if you could, and you're listening, keep them till the end. There will be a Q&A session. But if you could, post them in the Discord, because that's where we are able to keep an eye on, because we have so many people watching in so many different worlds right now. We can't get questions from all over the place. So if you can and have a burning question, put it in the Discord and we'll try to address it at the end. All right. So we are here, and the subject of the day, I'm sorry, my panel's the best panel, is immersive e-commerce and crypto economic infrastructure. The description was the ability to take payments and conduct transactions securely on the immersive web isn't in place yet, but is essential to its growth. Blockchain, cryptocurrency are enablers of NFTs, and they offer new solutions to the next generation of e-commerce. So let's just jump right in. But before we get to the financial stuff, I was going to kick off the discussion with just a really simple question for each of you, because I want to use it as a basis for what comes afterwards. What do you think the benefits of WebXR are? That's ours. But Luke, what do you think the benefits of WebXR are to you and to Brave?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's just kind of like creating these new spaces that are open and accessible for everybody, and kind of building new markets on top of them is like a huge thing. But doing it through the web and making it accessible is key.
All right. Jamie?
Well, so I'm, Emmy's going to hate me for saying the metaverse buzzword. So early on in the conversation in the green room, she said it's one of her most hated words on top of NFTs. But
we did have that discussion.
I kind of see the metaverse as an open economic system, and I think it's already here. I think it's just going to get more immersive, and as Amy said, it through a convergence of technologies. And I think it's really important that in an XR context that we can maintain a spectrum, right? So because it's an economic system, it's not just something that you're going to go play in a game. It's not just fun. It's increasingly a way to earn money, earn an income, derive value from your time. I think it's important we entertain a spectrum that's accessible. So whether that's from like very high-end hardware heavy requirements for you to really push the boundaries of that immersive experience, to the other end of it, which might be something like crypto voxels in the context of highly pixelated, voxelated worlds. For me, they're both really important to maintain as an economic system for it to be financially inclusive. So for me, that's like the important thing that I want to get across here.
Cool. Amy, what do you
Yeah,
think the
so
benefits are?
let me kind of qualify and I think I was a little brazen because I said, Linda said, so what do you guys want to talk about? And everyone else was like very, like intellectual and clever. And I was just like, shut up about the metaverse. And so, but what I mean by that is I've heard so much pontification from people who are not creators, not builders. And I'm not a creator and a builder, but I'm working in the space and I have a perspective on what the opportunity is. And this idea that people can kind of put this label on it and plant a flag. And I think the metaverse is this sort of very fluid. I think I kind of described it once as the journey and not the destination. And I think that's kind of what the beauty of the metaverse is, right? It's this sort of, fluid expansion of our existing lives. And we're at this very 1.0 version of truly blending the physical and the digital, and where it's not going to matter. We're not going to talk about, VR and AR and MR and XR. It's just going to be, and it's going to be that reality at that particular moment. And then, kind of relative, and actually both Luke and Jamie have said the word accessible. And I think that is the key component to, WebXR and then moving into the metaverse. And, we have this opportunity at this moment in time to create this best version of this digital world, like the aspirational version of everything that we want in our lives, because there's really nothing out of bounds. And I love that we had Archer on from Somnium Space, because I think he's being really creative and really smart and very inclusive. And, so I don't mean to be disparaging when I'm saying, shut up about the metaverse and NFTs.
No, things get
but it just becomes buzzy, and then it
Yeah.
becomes meaningless. And actually, we have the ability to not only create these amazing worlds, but to create an economy, this parallel economy that creates a new definition of value, right? And we don't, and God, like, please don't let JP Morgan Chase, and I used to be there, and I'm sorry, everyone, Jamie Dimon, for saying this, but you should not be trying to harness cryptocurrency, right? There should be this new construct of value. And it's why I'm a big fan of Outlier, because I think you understand that there's a piece of this that's wrapped around identity, and there's a piece about this that gives a new definition of value. And value can be fluid, and it's actually okay, and it doesn't need to be tied to a specific construct. And I think we're really at the beginning of a brave new world. So that's what I mean about
jumping ahead and putting everything into that I was going to ask you guys about later on. Thank you for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. I'm joking. It was great. Because one of the funny things, the next question I was going to have is, do you think that WebXR could become the backbone of what becomes the metaverse? And when I say metaverse, what I mean is lots of different worlds, like there's lots of different websites, but there is a structure that ties them together. You can jump from one to the next quite easily, and they're tied together. Do you think that WebXR has the capability to become that backbone for the metaverse with that definition? Because obviously there's a lot of definitions of what the metaverse is. Jump in, guys.
Yeah. I can jump in. I mean, I think that, so I'm not an expert in VR or AR or any of these individual technologies. I kind of take a macro view, and generally I just make an assumption that these things converge. It's like been a defining part of our thesis at Outlier. We don't pretend to be able to understand each individual technology, its trajectory, or its nuances. And I think, for a true definition of the metaverse, as Amy said, there needs to be this blurring of physical and digital, not just experientially, but the economy itself, right? This blurring of work and play and all these various things. So I think on the one hand, on a personal level, I love using something like Oculus and trying to have as an immersive experience as possible for entertainment. But the reality is that's play. Versus what I might do in something that's relatively 2D, like Axie Infinity, which is a play-to-earn game. I would argue it's in the metaverse. You have these little axis characters, it's not like graphically amazing, but it's a digital economy. It's paying bills in the real world for people all over the world. In some cases, it's a primary form of income. And so for me, both of those things are really exciting. And like the kind of geek in me looks forward to the convergence of all of these things and see a fully immersive digital economy. But I'm quite happy. I would probably place more value for society today on an Axie Infinity than I would necessarily an Oculus experience, because like for me to do a lot of things in Oculus, I've got to have a gaming PC, I've got to buy the hardware, you're the 1%, and that's in economic terms, that is just a representation or a replication of the current economic status quo, which is like my primary concern.
We had an interesting, this is a riff, but 3 weeks ago, we had the town hall. We had somebody who is in India, and he's building a really great education experience on WebXR so that people in India can access it. And his comment was, there's all these emerging markets, people aren't buying the headsets because they can't afford them, but they can't afford a Google Cardboard. And WebXR is kind of leapfrogging, as it were, going from, they leapfrogged the PC and went right to mobile, and now they're leapfrogging the headset and going right to, mobile access or browser access for the XR experiences. And I think there's huge numbers of people, in all these emerging markets that fall into that category.
Well, and just I feel like there's also been a big push, like because of outside circumstances, with COVID and the pandemic, and it's a huge forcing function. I feel like, as rough as it is, people have been brought into the situation where, okay, everybody's having to do things virtually that wouldn't have normally done that. And so, it gets different people thinking about this in different ways. And then, that kind of creeps in, and it kind of meets in the middle between Oculus and just a Zoom meeting or something like that. And like, how can we kind of incentivize and build in economics across all those things and see where it can go from there.
Understand.
And look, Linda, earlier you had your kind of AR filters on, which you should definitely do during this panel, by the way. So, I really like the idea of just this layering, right? So there's a good argument to say, there you go.
The good fairy for this.
For me, this ability to kind of just layer elements that enhance the experience, or I guess the subject to this panel, layer in the ability to perform economic transaction, whether it's tipping, whether it's staking, whether it's purchasing. I think it doesn't need to be like out of the gate like a full 3D web environment like Somnium. I think there are baby steps to get there.
Do you think, I guess I have a couple questions. One is, what do you think the barrier to WebXR adoption is right now? And do you think that the ability to do transactions securely, because I'm not 100% sure, to be fair, that they are as secure as they can be to do a lot of these transactions yet? Do you think that is essential for it to grow? And do you think that cryptocurrencies and NFTs and blockchain technology, and those are 3 different things, are going to be, will they hyperfuel this growth once they start becoming more secure on the web? Luke, you work for Brave. I'd love to hear what you say about that.
Yeah, I agree on all that, all the above. That's kind of what we were doing with BAT too, is to kind of just bring this attention economy, tokenize it and make a unit of account for it. And now when you look at what's going on with the metaverse, with NFTs, but also with DeFi too, decentralized finance, it becomes this way to kind of bridge these worlds together and have extreme, in some cases, extreme value creation on the DeFi side of things, paired with, collectability and accessibility and access control, stuff like that you can get with NFTs, and gift wrapping something, sending it to somebody, and doing all that. But with Brave, what we've done is kind of try to create that middleware that is secure and keeps privacy by default, so that on top of that, you can have transactions, have meaningful discussions, and kind of do this all from the edge. So we're kind of separating out from kind of centralized systems into ones where people who are creating the content actually kind of control what they do and are getting the best value that they can out of it. And so starting from that is kind of where we went with the virtuous cycle. And now we're looking at different ways to add more loops into this and create more systems of value.
And Linda, I think I just build on that, right? Because
go ahead.
I think Brave's a really good example of the power of the Web3 stack and crypto generally to fuel or accelerate WebXR or the metaverse, however you want to kind of frame it. Because on the one hand, it demonstrates incentivization, the power of incentivization, to bootstrap networks to coordinate behavior in a decentralized way. It demonstrates the idea that you can atomize value, digital value that currently isn't recognized. So like attention was something that you gave to something in return for a free product. And actually they're kind of flipping on the head and saying, well, attention is perhaps one of the most valuable things on the web today. And actually it can be atomized, it can be turned into incremental value, and you can be remunerated. And then thirdly, the idea that digital value, once atomized, can be collateralized. It can be put to work in something like DeFi. And if you think about what that means, like how much value is created on the web today in gaming environments, time spent, skills applied or money invested that is trapped in a platform. Like once I'm over that platform, I can't transfer it out. Right. And I certainly can't go to a bank and ask for a loan for a house, right? You'd be laughed out of the room. I mean, just crypto alone, you can't even get a loan from a bank, let alone like, skins and stuff. So this is like whole generations that are financially excluded. And so for me, all of those three things coming together, which, you might look at Brave and say, well, it's quite a basic implementation of that, but it's very easy to extrapolate that out and think about how that could be put to work in virtual worlds and all this kind of stuff.
Amy, what are your clients saying, or what are you saying to clients about where the growth is going to come from in WebXR and how it ties to the crypto NFT stuff?
Well, I kind of look at it as being tied to identity, and it touches actually on things that both Luke and Jamie are talking about. So you have kind of the self-sovereign identity piece, which is holy grail is this ability for us to sort of control our data and our persona. And then from starting with the gaming world, this sort of notion of portable identity, portable secure identity, right? As Luke's focusing on a portion of that. But being able to kind of move this identity sort of seamlessly through experiences, securely through experiences, but then also the next evolution of that, in my mind, and how we start to then think of that, how that impacts as brands and enterprises, is we will all have this kind of public persona. So we'll have this kind of 3D version of all the social media that we engage in today. But we can share these experiences in this 3D realm. But if we can take control of our sort of private persona and our private data, and somebody builds this layer, Luke and Ryan Gill, if you're out there, I'm sure you're on here. We've talked about this many, many times. But a simple interface to allow us to control and monetize our data and to really start to have much more direct relationships. So we already have DTCs, or this direct to consumer construct, right, in e-commerce. And how does that move now into this sort of 3D realm? I think we can remove advertising agencies, and I think we can remove this negative connotation of brands and advertisers trying to nefariously, and they do, and it's like we talk about it and we whine about it, but we do zero about it.
Amy,
that brands are using this against us.
Could you define self-sovereign identity for people who are listening who may not be familiar with that term?
So it's essentially the data that we are effectively giving away on a daily basis about our behaviors. And now we're getting a very, a glimpse of the controls. Apple's already put some in place. They're sort of running with us in parallel today. And it's far less interesting than everything we're talking about right here. Who cares about the iPhone 13?
It's bigger notch.
Yeah, and so it's this notion that you have this persona and you have this identity that is ratified, and that people can honestly know that they are dealing with you and is your identity, and you're able to then seamlessly move from experience to experience. Again, this is sort of this evolution definition of what self-sovereign identity is.
And that's
And then
blockchain
from
based.
the data piece,
That's
it's
the
blockchain
part of
based,
it.
and
Yeah.
and then the kind of crypto component is that what if we just allowed brands to pay us directly in microtransactions in cryptocurrency for access to certain data, and whoever builds that interface that says, all right, we're pinging you for these 7 pieces of data, right, whatever it is, age, blah blah
Well,
blah,
isn't
blah,
that
blah.
what Brave's bat does or did or plan to do? I'm not sure exactly where it is, but
In a sense, it is. I mean, I think so much of what we were doing is trying to kind of create a new starting point, right, where we can build this in and measure the attention. But we have been doing kind of these actions where you can give up some information and get a reward back. We're working on some of that, but much of our focus has been on kind of scaling a performant alternative that people are familiar with, and then kind of building on top of that.
Yeah.
And Luke, listen, we can talk about this for hours.
But can I ask Luke a question? Because I think what you're doing is like phenomenal. But I mean, I think to this point, you have to kind of put a stake in the ground, right? And you have to start somewhere. Like, we have this idea of where it's all going to go. How do you think it kind of evolves from where you are now and the direction you see will be the most value, both from the consumer side and then from both advertisers and gaming? Like, there's a lot here.
I feel like a lot of this is just going to be more building of relationships that are direct between the brands or the games and the users, and those are the lasting. All this kind of boils down to like ROI. Like, for us, for the advertiser, for the brand, for the game, for the user, right? Like, the user getting the value from this. Is this something? We're a user first company, but we're also creating new business models, and we're, in order to kind of break through a lot of the kind of acronym noise that is digital marketing and advertising, the one acronym that really makes sense to these people is ROI. Show me the value, right? Like, and can we show you, encrypted, cryptographically proven, ROI on what you're putting in? And the same goes for gaming too. And we've done gaming partnerships, and blockchain games have actually been adding BAT as an accepted token, and we've been doing different tournaments, things like that, to kind of do it because people have sunk value in games. Like, and that's a great thing about blockchain gaming, is just that you can kind of take one thing from one game to another. There's an interoperability, and this idea of like, okay, the next version of the game coming out, well, I've already put a couple $100 into gizmos and stuff on this Xbox game. Now I got to go start from zero again on the next thing. Well, like, you can change that. You can actually have your piece and bring it into the game. So there's a lot of value for users, but for brands, it's all about cutting through the noise and just giving them direct access to people that want to access with them. And that's the key thing here, is that you're going from a relationship with brands to users that was kind of invasive to one where, no, you got users that are opting in. They want to be a part of this. They want it because they're getting something out of it, but also because advertising isn't a bad thing. Brands aren't a bad thing. Like, there's value that's given to people through these, channels. And so we're just building on that value, on the fundamentals.
Jamie agrees about, especially apparel brands. Him and Nostalgic about it soon. Hey, I love this discussion, and we could probably speak about this for all day. I think bringing it back to WebXR. What is the special sauce that WebXR brings to all of this for you guys? Is there one? I mean, let's be honest. Is there one? And if so, what is special about the WebXR version of all this stuff that adds? Is there a special thing that it brings?
I think it's accessibility, right? It's kind of where we are now. And I think it's an important piece of the evolution. And, it's like, if let's take, let's say it, the Facebook, the new Wayfair glasses, it's not amazing. It's not perfect,
no.
But you have to put a stake in the ground with all of this technology, because we don't get to have all of it at once.
No.
We need to understand the behaviors. And the thing that we haven't really understood is really how a really broad swath of consumers are going to interact with this landscape, right? We have an idea, and we have a lot of really smart people, Jamie and Luke being among them, kind of looking at these experiences, and you're putting these new experiences and these new opportunities in front of them. And then we're gonna look and see, like, what's interesting. Can we do this kind of direct to avatar model, and what does that look like, and how does it benefit the consumer? Because, you know, we have this opportunity for this win-win-win construct, right? But we need to kind of experiment more, and we need consumers to engage, right? We need them to get into these experiences and play the games, and
Right.
not
And
just
I think
gamers,
WebXR,
right? We need to hit consumers.
Right. Right. And I think WebXR can do that. I think that's one of the advantages of it, is it makes it easy to try for a company to just do something instead of having the app and a store and a big thing, and then it gets it on platforms and distribution. Whereas you can just, like with a link, you can actually get people involved who may not have been involved before, and try it out and get people used to the idea. Jamie, I am really curious, what makes a WebXR company attractive for you as an investor, and what role does crypto or blockchain or NFT play into your thinking when you are evaluating that opportunity?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe to kind of answer your original question, which is, you know, what is the importance of something like WebXR, right? I think, you know, for me, what really excites me about the space, when we wrote the Open Metaverse OS paper, like beginning part of this year in January, was that you're seeing both an open economic system emerge alongside open software movement. And for so long, open software has kind of been, of course, you know, you've had the success of Linux and everything else, but it's largely been seen as like not profitable, not a thing that like commercial people do. And commercial people build moats, they build walls, they build proprietary technology, they try to create these walled gardens. And I think like the hottest thing on the planet now is open source technology. That has a business model because it can be, you know, fueled by tokenization. And I think, you know, what we're experiencing is not just a technological revolution, but like a socioeconomic one, like how we coordinate value outside of traditional corporations, outside of platforms. Platforms will exist, but only if they provide an extreme amount of value. And even if they do that, they still can't capture. You know, they have to accept that this transferability that Luke was talking about. So, you know, I see the importance of something like WebXR as it's a critical component of allowing that stack to emerge, to allow for anybody to enter that space, to kind of equalize the power of a corporation versus a small enterprise or a single developer.
Awesome. We are almost out of time. Like, this has gone so quickly. I know. Does anybody have anything they want to add to our discussion? I don't have any questions from the audience right now, unfortunately.
They're ready for a party in all space, apparently.
I know. Well, we're going to have a party. The party's actually in Somnium, which is going to be really interesting because you can access it. Again, it's a web-based thing, so you can use it, you can access it, and I've been in it, and it's amazing what they managed to do. Through a web browser, the experience is completely immersive in 3D, and I hit Arthur up for being able to actually put some of my artwork in his space. So there you go. One of the benefits of doing this kind of thing.
If I may, if we've got like one more minute, because I think this point of self-sovereign identity that Amy really articulated well is like so important, right? And it's still not been solved for. So self-sovereign identity is not exclusive to blockchain. I just think blockchain brings a coordination mechanism, an incentive mechanism to make it happen at scale. But it's still not been solved for. And so like we talk about decentralized web, we talk about the sovereign individual, we talk about sovereignty of identity, data, wealth. It doesn't actually exist at the moment. Like it's still theoretical. And if we don't solve that, then the metaverse is going to look like a very dystopic place. So like, you know, anybody that's working on it, we've got a couple of projects to invest in. I'm not going to shill them. It's like really, really important. Like we can build all these wonderful virtual worlds, incredibly immersive. If we don't solve for that, in actuality, we're dependent upon platforms.
Agreed. Well,
totally true. Perfect place to end.
Right? I know. Thank you so much, everybody. I have enjoyed this immensely. I hope our audience has too. We've had a huge number of people watching, so really appreciate your being here. And thank you so much for all your time.